Welcome to Decaf. And happy Utah Jazz Month. I'm gonna give Mark.
Oh, we get the whole month?
I'm gonna give you the whole month because if you win, you're gonna be obnoxious for a month, and if you lose, you're gonna be devastated for a month. So let's just go ahead and say Happy Utah Jazz Month. I'm a diehard Bama fan. I know how it is. I'm just gonna give you the month. You're welcome.
I'm excited we get to talk about it too later. That's an exciting thing.
We're talking about it in a little bit.
Letting me talk about it. Yeah.
As of now, keep your mouth shut. We got serious business to talk about. But happy Utah Jazz. Mark, when I was starting in my sorority, they always said only wear one item of Alabama or Alpha Chi clothing at a time. You are always maxed out on Utah Jazz.
So right now I have the hat, the jersey, and hold up, you can't even see, but I have the sweatpants.
Oh my God. You are maxed out. I would be curious to know how much money you've spent on Utah Jazz apparel over the years.
I think it'd be interesting. I think my actual clothing stuff, 40% of it's Jazz. And I actually have a lot of clothes for a guy. So I have a lot of Jazz stuff.
It is unbelievable. I mean, I get it. I'm kind of the same way with Alabama. If I go in a thrift store and there's an Alabama vintage something, I'm about to buy that. So you're going on a trip this week. And I know that on airlines, they're still requiring masks, but the CDC has loosened its mask regulations. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who followed the science for the last 18 months have decided that the science is no longer worth following. And we've seen a lot of articles. New York Times especially did a feature on people who are fully vaxxed and are still not even only single masking, but double masking. And I went into Target last night with no mask on, didn't feel unsafe, felt totally fine. There were so many people in Target without a mask on. And so it makes you wonder, is it all theater, or are people truly scared out of their minds to exist? And if so, that's kind of sad. But it's starting to get a little shocking that now we've gone from listen to the science, it'll keep you safe, to listen to the science because either A, we're going to show you how woke we are, B, we're too terrified to actually listen to the science, or C, whatever else. I don't know, Mark, what are your thoughts?
Well, one, I do think they are legitimately scared and terrified. I think it's partially, if not fully, because of the way the media treated this. So I do feel like they're scared. And the thing is, if you want to double mask, and I don't care. It doesn't matter. We can't, as long as the government, I'm not going to outlaw jorts, even though that looks stupid. But if you wear jorts in Walmart, that's fine. You can double mask and be vaccinated. It doesn't matter to me. I think it's personally doesn't make any sense, but it's your life. I'm not trying to do that. The whole issue with following the science, I don't care if you follow the science or not. It doesn't matter to me. I just want the rules and regulations and laws to reflect that. And that's the problem. I don't care that you're vaccinated and wear a mask, but it's ridiculous that you, if you have the idea that everyone should have to wear a mask after they're vaccinated, because that takes away the whole point of a vaccination. So it's I just think you're gonna have to let people be. And these people are not, if you're wearing a double mask, after you've been vaccinated, you're not the smartest person in the world, but there's a lot of not smart people in the world. So if you're happy, then go ahead and be happy. I'm not going to stop you.
Well, and I know that of the two of us, I tend to be the more compassionate one, probably 100 to 1 on the compassion meter. But I really do feel sorry for these people who are so scared, children who are afraid to take the masks off, who haven't got.
That's their parents, though. It's not the kids, right? It's their parents who told them how awful it is. Yeah.
It's the children who have been brainwashed to think that they're not going to be safe. It's really sad what the media and, to a degree, some of the presidential administration actions, local health departments, the fear of God that they have put into people. It's really sad.
We've kind of lost this idea of the fact that statistics matter too, right? So if you get a vaccine, you're 95% safe from. That's kind of if you get one, I guess and on top of that, even if you were to get it, all the symptoms are less, it's going to be a lot. But people are saying, I'm not willing to take that chance. And it's well, if you're not willing to take that chance, you should never leave your house. Because if that's the point, you should never drive a car. You should never go on an airplane. You should never do anything. Because if you're not willing to take that chance with that percentage numbers, then you're not willing to take a chance on anything. And it just shows a lack of understanding about there's a risk reward ratio, and nothing is 100% safe. Nothing we do. When I go and walk to my car today, there's a chance I could get hit by a car. So this whole idea, nothing's 100% safe. So when you're saying, I'm not willing to take the risk, Well, then if that's the case, you should look at the percentage of things that you do on a normal basis and see the rest. You shouldn't be drinking beer. You shouldn't be doing any kind of drugs for sure. You probably shouldn't even be eating meat. You shouldn't be eating vegetables. I mean, there's everything. Like you can't do anything. So it's just it's a mathematical conundrum to me at this point, not even a scientific one, because the math's there. And if you're not willing to take that chance, then you really should just like be like Bubble Boy, put yourself in the bubble and just kind of roll around down to make sure nothing happens.
I was about to say, we're going to talk about some weirdo movies later, but
that's a good one. Actually, that is a weird premise. That's a good one to talk about.
That's funny. Yeah. A bunch of people. The next thing it started with single mask. Now it's going to be double mask. The next thing is going to be hamster wheel, like bubbles, and people are walking.
Seriously, it's not crazy. It's not crazy.
It's not crazy.
It is crazy, but it's not unrealistic.
I mean, like I've gotten sicker from eating meat that I didn't cook all the way through than I think COVID would make me. So it's like everything. You're right. I'm really thinking of what you're saying now. Everything is a risk, and it's all calculated risks. But come on, people.
And part of it, and I'm not even blaming the news media generally, but the whole point of them is they want to, they want people to watch it. If it leads, it bleeds. If it bleeds, it leads. That's kind of always been the thing. So they want to make people as scared as possible. That's usually their ratings. And it's not to say there's nothing, and there obviously is something here. And 500, 600,000 people have died. It's a serious thing. But the whole, and I actually saw a good poll to show like they had liberals and conservatives are way more correct about what it actually does. It said, if you get COVID, what percentage of people do you think go to the hospital or go to the emergency room? And like 35% of liberals said 50% or more. It was some huge number. So if you actually look at those numbers, they are the ones completely out of whack on what it does. And a lot of that is because the media makes it seem like, yeah, if you get it, you're going to go to the emergency room, you're going to die. Like like there's a couple lucky people who don't have any issues or it's not bad, but like, that's not that's not what's actually happening.
Wow. Okay.
And I like the media. I'm not like, but you have to understand what they're doing. You have to understand the reason they're doing this. And you need to be smart to like look up stuff yourself. And people just are afraid to look at percentage. I don't know why, but like, well, 600,000 people died. Like, yeah, that's a ton. What percentage is that of the people in the US or the people who've gotten it? Like that, it's not big. And you should be careful because it's more than 0%. But at some point you have to make a choice and say, well, if there's a point at my age, my weight, all this thing, there's a 0.0001% chance of me dying from it, I'm probably going to take that risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about what you just said there for a second, doing research and actually looking at things on your own. I read in CNBC today that this new group called Consumers Research is starting to take out ads on CNBC, Fox News, Fox Business, calling out woke CEOs. So they specifically, in the latest round of ads, or I guess maybe it's the first round of ads, we're calling out Coca-Cola, American Airlines, and Nike for their CEOs instituting a woke culture in the workplace. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I do love the fact that we live in America and you can do that. And I am sick of the woke culture coming into everything. Like I drink a Coca-Cola every single day. It's like my weakness. And I sometimes when I see things online that they're promoting a woke culture in the workplace, it kind of pisses me off that I'm like, being a consumer of theirs, like I don't want to give them my money, but I'm also like addicted to it. But there was this app that came out several years ago. It still exists, called Second Vote. And Second Vote is an app you can go on and look at all of your favorite brands to see if they donate to liberal or conservative causes, if they promote free speech in the workplace. They're also doing investment accounts for people to invest in companies that promote free speech and or promote even conservative values. And so I think it's interesting, and I'm still kind of processing through how I feel about all of this because I hate the fact that everything is politicized, which is why I still drink my Coke Zero every afternoon. But I do think it's interesting that as half of culture is pushing toward the left, the faction that's getting pushed on is now starting to push back. And honestly, I think that's a beautiful thing about America. And you might disagree with me, Mark, but I think this is a really cool turning of the tides, you may say.
Well, I'm more concerned about Nike's use of slave labor than I am concerned about their wokeness. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, I think the one positive about this is like this is kind of what capitalism is. Like, I think the problem is when we're telling the government they should, ban this because I don't like this, or they should stop this company because I don't like it, as opposed to like saying, you know what, I'm gonna let people know and I'm gonna call them out, and then consumers can choose whether they want to still go there or not. For the most part, I don't really boycott anything. I think unless you're like funding terrorism, like even if you're woke or you're social, it's like, I'm like, well, look, if your product's good and I'm getting value out of your product, as long as you're not actually funding things that are just horrendous, then I'm usually okay with the difference of opinion. I think with that being said, one of the weird things is like, so I saw that Georgia was talking about getting rid of Coke's like corporate welfare deal. And I have an issue with that, not because, I mean, of course I want that, but like, we should be getting rid of all corporate welfare deals. Why do you need to say, like, why does it take conservatives? It takes like somebody saying something woke or saying something about a law that they don't like to defund them of getting these special privileges, when like, as conservatives, we should all believe in that. Nobody should get special privileges. And like, it's a shame. And the Titans too, it's like, oh, the Titans were kneeling, right? It's like, oh, wait, we should take away their special privileges and tax. I was like, it doesn't matter if they're kneeling or not. We should get rid of them no matter what. Like, it's insane that this has happened in the first place. So it's like, it's weird for me that when you're like, well, it is good policy to get rid of their things, but like, I don't think it's for the right reason. The reason is because taxpayers should not be paying millionaires and private companies when small businesses are struggling and not helping them at all. So it's like this just weird, it's a weird thing. But I guess my point is that I think people should do whatever they want. I think capitalism is great. And I think that honestly, that it's weird that the liberals right now are kind of using this. They a lot of them hate capitalism, like, oh, well, let's boycott this and do this. I'm like, well, you are just saying why you're talking about why capitalism is great, right? Because like you're able to do that. Yeah. And I think I told you most boycotts, I mean, they don't work. I mean, think about Chick-fil-A. They made more money from being boycotted. I think the My Pillow guy, like a lot of times they don't work, and you're giving these, especially medium companies, like way more press than they would get otherwise.
I know. I was just about to say, when people came out against the Goya Foods CEO, I used to be like a big, just like get the Publix brand and be done. I am like exclusively in canned products a Goya Foods girl now, just because I got mad at how they treated their CEO just for saying what was on his mind. My mom got on and ordered 2 My Pillows, and she's obsessed with them just because she didn't like how their CEOs were getting attacked. I ate at Chick-fil-A the whole week that people were trying to boycott them. And so, yes, I do think that capitalism works. But to your point about the corporate welfare deals, I think you sometimes let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And if we're chipping away at corporate welfare deals, baby steps, we shouldn't have done it in the first place. That ship has sailed though. And I think that if whatever the reason is, get rid of the deals altogether. But
it's just picking more winners and losers though. You're saying, oh no, you know what? You're going to be a loser now because you don't support our policy perspective. That's not a good step.
No, you're right.
Like, I want to get rid of all of them, but it's like saying that now, oh, if you're not aligned with the policies of our specific state, that you can't get a corporate welfare deal. Like if Los Angeles, if California, that there'd be no more conservative companies. So it's like, I just think it should be gotten rid of altogether. So I don't actually think it's a good step in the right direction, even though I like that I like the corporate welfare is being talked about. It's the only benefit of it.
Yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from now. It's like a moral dilemma. It's like, I hate corporate welfare, but I also don't think that it should be in any way aligned with politics, because that's not,
it shouldn't be aligned with anything. It should, yeah. I mean, there shouldn't be the thing. It should be based on specifically what you offer consumers, not like whatever tax break or whoever or what political persuasion you have. Yeah, like all that stuff is nonsense.
I mean, that's honestly like cronyism at the hands of the government at its finest.
Exactly. I know. Even though we agree with them fighting back against the wokeness, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want the government to do that.
Yeah, it's not.
I want people to be able to do it, and the government not be involved. And I don't want them to fund Coca-Cola or any other company.
I get in a lot of arguments with my friends because I'm surrounded mostly by lefties all around on all sides. And, at the end of every argument, I just say the difference between you and me is that we have a fundamental disagreement on the role of government. And I think that's like where we are. I think that really is what separates the right from the left, is this fundamental disagreement on what the role of government is. And I have to, at this point, you kind of have to agree to disagree and just acknowledge that, like, you think the government is supposed to fix everything, and I think the government screws everything up. And that's the whole difference in this, the woke police and trying to get the government to be the woke police. It's a nightmare.
And I do want to say, I do feel like we kind of hammer liberals a little bit, especially with like the woke stuff. But I will say that most people don't agree with that. I think that you look at the cancel culture, all that stuff, and we hear the loudest, most animate, like socialists and liberals saying these things, but that's not what most Democrats think.
I would agree
And
with
you
that.
kind of and you hear the people on the right saying kind of, I mean, like the far right, you know, some of them say like these crazy things are conspiracy theories. Like that's not what most people on the right believe. So I do think we need to cut through, because the loudest, most like divisive voices are the ones we hear from both sides.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between conservatives and liberals, Republicans and Democrats, and then the lefties and the right wing folks. Like that's kind of how
Yeah, the socialists and the QAnon people are like that's not what those people most of those people actually believe.
But even not going as far as socialists, like a lot of people that I'm surrounded with in my age group, the 29 to 35-year-olds who are the woke people, they're more like lefties than traditional Democrats, than like the kind of Democrat that like my grandparents are. And
Yep.
so there's just a huge difference on any side of it. And I think it's interesting. I feel like maybe at the beginning of my political career, maybe like 10 years ago, Democrats and people on the left really walked the party line, and they all walked the party line, and Republicans was the side of more factions and more people like the libertarians, the conservatives, the
The Tea
right
Party.
wingers, the Tea
Yeah.
Party, all that. Now, I think that people on the left have stopped walking the party line. And if they want to get the party line back on the page of everyone, the far lefts aren't going to move more center. It's going to have to be the centers moving far left. And that's, when does that become socialism, communism, whatever? And it turns from a Democratic Party with more liberal ideals to an authoritarian party. It's very, it's going to be interesting to see, I guess, over the next 10 years, how that does evolve. Will it swing back center, or will it go more? Because we always talk about how the Republican Party may shift into more conservative and more libertarian, but we don't really talk about how the Democratic Party may shift to more centrist, liberal, and more socialist. I'm just talking now.
I think but what's interesting is I do feel like the Democrat, you're right, you're gonna have to go left if you're gonna do that. But I mean, I think the Republican Party has become either whatever Trump says, or what, like it's all about, at this point, it's about whether you agree with him or you're not, or like, I mean, somebody who disagree with him, I mean, obviously got voted out of leadership, which, I mean, so I do think that the Republican Party is actually kind of more walk the party line now, but the party line is more, in my opinion, whatever Trump thinks, more than kind of a specific policy agenda.
That's a really good observation, and I agree with you. I think that's really smart. Speaking of Mark being really smart, he's my betting guru, and it's about to, and hopefully Braves get in the postseason this year, and Mark can help me win some money off that. But before that, Mark, tell us what you're doing next week, end of this week into next week.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, next tomorrow morning, I'm going to be going to Salt Lake City. So the Jazz, this is the first time in their history we're actually the #1 overall seed in the NBA tournament. So we had the best record in the NBA. We're still about the 7th best odds of winning. For some reason, that didn't translate the odds of winning with that. But no, it's really exciting. This is the first time I've been a Jazz fan really since, I guess, 2000. So, and it's kind of been my only real team that I just love more than anything. And this is the first time that year that I think we actually have a chance of winning. So I will be going to a playoff game, if not 2, when I go to Salt Lake City. Very excited. I'm really hoping we don't play the Lakers in the first round, so that we will determine that tonight. That would be a nightmare, but it's really exciting. And after years, and we'll talk about kind of your thoughts on Alabama and Devin, like, after years of kind of being in the wilderness where it's like either the Jazz are terrible or they're fine, but they don't have a chance of winning. Like, oh, they'll make the playoffs, but like maybe they'll win a round, but they don't have a real chance. Like, this is the first year, and you have kind of 2 super teams that are a little bit hurt, where like the Jazz could actually win. So I don't think I've ever been this optimistic, and not just like externally, you're like, oh yeah, we have a chance, but inside you're like, no, of course we're not going to win. This is the first time my external excitement matches how I actually feel. So I do think we can win. That's a really exciting thing after being bad for so many years or being very mediocre. So that's cool.
People crap on me all the time because I get upset when Alabama doesn't win a national championship, and they're like, you don't know what it's like to fight and struggle. I'm like, okay, I have been a lifelong Alabama fan. And trust me, we know what it's like to walk in the wilderness. We had that year where Mike Price was our coach for like 3 months before he was found to be taking recruits to strip clubs and got fired.
And he didn't even win. Like, you figure you're going to do that, you would have more wins.
He didn't even coach a game.
Oh, okay.
He didn't even coach a game.
He came from Washington State, right? Isn't that where you hired him from?
I don't remember, but it was so bad. Like, my mom actually reminded me recently of one of the quotes that became very popular that he said to a lady dancer, and I will not repeat it on this show, but let's just say he was to use your favorite term, a scumbag. And
What a really respectful term, though. Lady dancer. I feel like that's such a nice term. I like how you didn't say stripper, you said lady dancer. That could be a ballerina. Who knows?
Okay, not a ballerina. I feel like I can't say the word stripper. Like it makes me feel scandy. And then we had Shula, who was just a huge disappointment. Yeah. There were just a lot of coaches in there that we would have, like we were talking about earlier, we would have a good year, like 10-2, but there was no chance of, and this was when the BCS was going on and there was no playoff.
Yeah, you had to go 11-1 or 12-0 pretty much to get in.
Yeah, and so there was really no shot. And, you know, we've talked about it a million times how we feel about expanding the playoff, but even with 4 teams is better than what it used to be with BCS, and it was all based on like numbers and percentages and whatever. So we had a few years walking in the wilderness. I think Auburn beat us 6 years in a row, and the famous Bear Bryant quote was, we can win at something like this. We can win every game of the year, but nothing matters more than beating the Cal College on the other side of the state. And so losing to Auburn, like all through my youth, 2000, 2004, I was in elementary school. I was a kid, and, kids get like really fired up about these things, much like I still do now. So we were terrible. And so I know what it feels like. And so in 2009, when we were really good under Saban for the first time, I remember how that feels. And so you're going to hate that I'm using this term, Mark, but I'm sure you have butterflies in your stomach.
I did. Oh, I know I do. And even the thing is, though, I'm realistic. I know that we're a small market team. One championship in my lifetime would be enough. Seriously, in the next 51, because the Jazz have never won. It's never happened. Like Alabama, it's like, yeah, like if you don't win one in 4 or 5 years, you're mad. But like just one, because I understand this whole idea that like free agents don't want to come to Utah. You're not going to this is kind of, everything is kind of worked together this year, and we'll probably be pretty good next year too. But like, if we don't get in this 2-year period, I'm not sure it will ever happen. So like, this is kind of the chance. And I'm very, like, I'm not going to I'll of course keep cheering for them, but if they win one, I'll never complain about them losing again, I don't think.
Yes, absolutely. Is Kira going with you on this trip?
She is. And my friend Jonathan's actually going to come meet me too. He's kind of my best friend growing up. And he's like, well, if you're in a Jazz playoff game, I want to go with you. So
that's amazing. Are we concerned at all that Kira will come to her senses and run after she sees how crazy you are when the Jazz are playing?
I'll be honest, for as crazy as I'm normally, I am a very calm fan. I clap, and when they're losing, like, how people yell and stuff, I don't yell. I go like, I just get depressed and don't talk, which is better. Like, I don't yell. I'm not embarrassing. I'll just, like, you can tell I'm upset, but I'm like,
I'm going to be texting Kira and find out if you're telling the truth or not. Because
I promise I am. And like, I get excited. See, but what I'm a good fan when you're losing, because like, I will not say a word, or I might just mumble things under my breath, like, why are we even an NBA team? But like, it's not yelling. I'm not a yeller.
I'm a yeller. I actually got really mad after a game at an Alabama LSU game. One time we lost to LSU and I was a sophomore in college, and their band marched down sorority row, and I was holding a can of beer and threw it at the band. Like, that's the kind of person I am.
That's horrible.
I know.
That's like illegal, I think. That's like borderline assault. Wow. Okay. No, I'm not a bad person like you. So no, we do have a difference there.
I'm a terrible person. Let's talk about something a little more lighthearted than my life of crime. So this year's the 20th anniversary of Shrek coming out, and Shrek was a weird movie, and I was reading online that some of the DreamWorks staff, when they were working on it, they thought it was going to be a huge flop. They thought it was going to be absolutely terrible because it's just a weird concept. And they said that if you got sent to work on the Shrek project, it was like getting sent to Siberia, like getting exiled from the DreamWorks family. And now Shrek is it was so popular. Everyone loved Shrek. I remember being on the science team in the 5th grade, and we listened to the Shrek soundtrack all day of our science competition to pump ourselves up because it was all-star. And the more we think about it, like, I just accepted Shrek for like a great movie with like a funny scenes and whatever when I was in 4th grade. And now as an adult, I think back on it, I'm like, that movie was freaking weird. And a lot of movies.
Yeah, it featured ogres that are princes or queens and stuff. It's weird.
A princess that turned into an ogre when the sun goes down. Like, it's weird. And a talking donkey and a cat that talked. Like, it's just a weird movie. But I loved it. And I still quote, not my gumdrop buttons, when they pluck the gumdrop button off the gingerbread man. Like, there's memorable things, but I started to think about all of the movies that we loved as children, and what on earth were we watching? Like, Beauty and the Beast, that is weird. A beast capturing a young girl in exchange for her dad, and then she falls in love with him. Like, that's weird. A Bubble Boy, That is weird. Osmosis Jones, weird.
Oh, was that Eddie Murphy? I never saw that movie.
So that was that guy that's in the Wes Anderson movies. It was I don't remember. I'll think of it. But like there were a lot of weird
Chris
movies.
Rock. It's Chris Rock.
Yes.
Okay.
There were a lot of weird movies that we watched as children, and like what were our parents doing?
Yeah, I remember. I always thought the weirdest one was like, and I mean, I don't care, but like, and I used to love this movie. But remember the Brave Little Toaster, where they had all these like appliances talking to each other and like going on adventures. Like you have just like a toaster is, and like all these. I don't even remember. I used to love the movie though, but it's like all these like weird household appliances going on adventures together and talking. That's strange.
That's weird. No, Bill Murray was the guy that was in Osmosis Jones too. I guess with Chris Rock.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, with Chris Rock. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. But yeah, Brave Little Toaster. Like, what in the? I'm watching a toaster dance around and go on adventures. Okay.
And a bunch of other, like, there's like a blender. I forget the exact thing. There's all these just household things that we're going on adventures together. I'm like, what is the point of this?
And then like in church, we watched Veggie Tales. Like, so you're telling me
that's still weird. I don't get that.
It is weird. And Toy Story, like, how was I not more scared of Toy Story? How was I not freaked out that my toys might be coming to life when I left my playroom?
Yeah. And what about like Barney? I know it's a TV show. Like there's a big purple dinosaur like hanging around kids.
I love Barney. We have Barney Christmas ornaments still on our tree because I loved Barney so much. My parents took me to see Barney.
He's creepy. He's real creepy.
Yeah. Like all of these things that we watched as children, but you know that as soon as I have a kid, I'm going to set him in front of the TV and watch that stuff all over again. Like it is weird. Oscar the Grouch on Sesame Street. You want me to watch a guy that lives in the garbage?
I don't know. I guess the point is like that it's that kids like things that are, I don't know, that come to life that aren't usually life. Like what about the Land Before Time? All these old dinosaurs talking. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess like making inanimate objects animate is like actually now that we talk about that, that's pretty much the theme of every single kids movie. It's like these things that don't normally talk. So they clearly have a tried and true like method that works.
I mean, I've really clearly spent a lot of time thinking about this over the last few days about just the weirdo things that we used to watch as children, and our parents accepted it as normal.
I mean, that's the thing is though, as a parent, I imagine like as long as okay, is my kid entertained? Yes. Is this something I'm worried about them seeing? No, it's weird, but it's not harmful. And at that point, it's like, will he shut up for 2 hours? Yes. Okay, that's perfect. I imagine that I would be I like to watch anything they want as long as it wasn't like dangerous to them.
Do you remember the Mary-Kate and Ashley mysteries and like Mary-Kate?
I didn't watch it because I'm a guy, but yeah.
Okay. Well, they were like 7-year-old girls running around like SeaWorld and stuff, solving a mystery. It's like, where are your parents? Like
the best thing was as a kid, I wasn't allowed to watch Captain Planet because my dad. Do you remember Captain Planet?
Oh.
It was like this superhero. It's like an environment. Like my dad's like it's some like BS environmental. So even like he knew that the environmental like radical, but like it was I can't believe you don't know that. I mean, you're a little bit younger than me, but like
no indoctrination for Mark.
Yeah. I remember, and my friend used to watch. I'm like, why can't I watch? Because I wasn't allowed to watch other things because like they like Beavis and Butthead and stuff, they cursed or whatever. But like Captain Planet's like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I don't want to deal with this crazy environmental like trying to I guess make your brain think a certain way about these things.
I wasn't allowed to watch Rugrats because
Rugrats is so good.
Okay, I wasn't allowed to watch it because Angelica had a bad attitude and I had a bad attitude as a child. And my parents literally said, you don't need any help.
You remind me of Angelica. I think that's a good. I feel like you're a lot like Angelica. I haven't seen that show in a long time. I remember I was Chucky for Halloween though.
Okay, that's cute. And I remember getting older and watching the Rugrats movie or whatever, but like as a small child, I had to change the channel when Rugrats came on because my parents didn't want me getting any ideas from Angelica.
I get it. I feel like you would copy her, be like, oh, she did this and she picked on Tommy like this. Let me do that to my sister.
No, I would have. When I was in 6th grade and saw Mean Girls, I was like, oh, I love the plastics and like was mean.
And think about when you were 10, how much even like you would have. So yeah, I think they made a good call on that.
I think they made a really good call.
Yeah, smart.
Regardless, it was a weird show. Rugrats was too. They were all weird shows. I'm glad we're out of that phase of life, but I might go watch Shrek tonight.
But there's still, I mean, you still have great memories of it. So this is like the longest one we've done, I think. It's like a half-hour one.
I know. We
had a lot to talk about.
Well, have fun in Utah, Mark. I will miss you. Sloan and I will send pictures, and I'm keeping Sloan.
For 5. Yeah. You got to take pictures. Yeah, she can be your guest host next week, maybe. She's very entertaining.
I'll have Sloan with me. I'll just hold her like a little purse dog. Have fun in Utah, Mark, and everyone have a good week, and we'll see you around.